When it comes to AI, are you a futurist, a visionary, or a pessimistic old fart like you're truly? Well, we're going to find out today. I am with a returning guest here at Cancel Me Baby. Everyone, welcome back, Artem Petrov. Here is how Artem is all up in this space. Like, you don't even know, like white on rice. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that anymore, but actually with his new project, we may find out. So a little bit about Artem. He was very formally, the tech creative director over at Meta. Yes, I'm going to be asking you about all the Zuckerberg punchlines. We're going to get there. Formerly Snapchat. And now he's literally just telling me about this before we hopped on. He has co-founded this new company called GetGen AI that is, get this, you guys, ripe for Cancel Me Baby chat. That is all in the world of the new buzzy DEI corporation standards and sensitivity and how we talk to each other online. So I welcome you to the stage, and I'm really excited, like I said, to get into, again, there, it seems like really there's the push and pull right now of the two groups of those who really see the future of advancements and efficiency versus people like me who are like, this is just an existential threat to mankind, no big deal. And just to set the stage a little bit, if you guys aren't keeping up with all of the AI dialogue, just little things here to set the scene. So the Google CEO said AI will be more profound than the discovery of fire. And ChatGPT has become the fastest growing app in history. Some say that they use it more than they use Google. So no big deal. So while we are still living and breathing, and we are not robots, and yes, this is Taylor and Artem in the flesh, we know that you're the expert in this, but set the stage for us a little bit as to how you've worked with AI in this capacity with Meta and your new endeavor.
It's interesting. Yeah, I spent some time when I joined Meta. I used generative AI models a lot just to kind of generate fast concept designs, or a lot of art, a lot of text, a lot of code for certain moments of my work. And it was interesting because the second I was basically creating beautiful things as I was before creating in Photoshop, using it as a tool because it does not create it for you. It's co-piloting you. It's not like something that does something without your awareness. You build something and there was a lot of tremendous results. Like, for instance, the concept art for game takes about like 5-6 weeks for a small game. Yeah. So you have a lot of like people working on that. I did everything in 4 days with like 17 characters. And it took me it's really quickly, it's really efficient, but I could not use it because compliance and politics and at large corporations are not allowing it because people trying to figure it out what this thing is, just basically how to legally treat it. What is IP? What does that pass compliance, a regular compliance of those companies? And there's a lot of problems with that. And so they actually stopped their development, and all the legal and HR people building trainings and building policies right now. Everyone does that right now. Some of them already have some policies in-house, some of them not. They're just developing it. So I decided, yeah, we have this very small window right now that we can actually jump in. And at Meta, I could not use it like widely. So I was, okay, I need to find out how we can make policies and generative results work together at the business, at the companies. So we pivoted a few times. We had some ideas and a lot of competition, guys. Everything that happens right now in Bay Area, every day there's like several models appears, and they all dividing the market, and they all trying to find out the niche and mold where they want to kind of actually execute their product.
Yeah, and that's why I even joke about the traditionalists like myself and the futurists, because it's funny. I read an op-ed today exactly what you're saying. And the essence of it was it's happening. This train is left. So basically roll with it or roll out.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we're going to get to this in the end, but this is where it also becomes very gray. And again, when do you get past the point of no return, not only socially and culturally, but when it comes to regulation, which is a huge dialogue right now because it's so subjective. And what happens when one person thinks, you know, even the tech lords, they don't even fucking know. Like, you know, Elon Musk and Andrew Yang, you know, they just wrote an open letter saying, let's halt this. Yeah. And it's interesting because even they're going, let's pause this technology, say with Chat GPT, like it's accelerating so fast. And in one of the op-eds I'd read, the author argued, you know, would you say you're trying to engineer planes to make them more safe? Would you just pause the process for 6 months arbitrarily? Like, so that metaphor really struck. I was like, huh, that's interesting.
Take another industry and see that this is the regulation part doesn't happen without practical implementation. Regulation happens when things go south and you're just like, okay, there we don't need to do this. And then you come with a regulation. So you need to practice as much as you can to have a decent regulation for thing. So regulation was a very interesting thing because it will be for some time, but we always figure the regulation part out. It will be lousy in the beginning. It will be better in the end. But this is the only possible journey. So what the Sam Altman and Elon Musk kind of difference, this is my take. Don't take it as some scientific fact.
And really quickly, Sam is the co-founder of Apple, right?
Sam Altman is OpenAI, ChatGPT.
OpenAI. Yes. I was going to talk about, I just read a lengthy interview with him about all of this.
So I just wanted to tell you, like, there's two portraits of, like, two profiles of people. I'm a tech optimist. I believe that we will figure it out, but we are on a slippery road. That's I agree with you. But we're not of like you know, what was the name of the Terminator? Basically, it will not be like an apocalypse. The problem that we are facing here, AI is way far from like controlling anything. It only
taking over humans, apocalypse.
Yeah. This is not the case. What we can figure out in several decades, that's the people kind of out of the learning process and people using it as we used internet, not deliberately to kind of go and search for information, but actually that AI will learn for our kids instead of them learning and exploring things. Okay. But that's a task for us to actually tackle right now on the what's so-called experience loops for kids to actually embed AI into their learning process. So they instantly get, they feed their authentic curiosity, you know, immediately. They just thinking about something and get the information and learning and learning and learning. So it can turn this way, or kids will they use AI for making, you know, teachers, if the system of education will not change and not actually adopt to this, they will use it like we use internet, just to kind of, you know, take some facts for their homework and stuff like that, not learning. And that's a huge problem that can actually make a big problem there.
Yep. I want to talk about kids in school and education, but just kind of this last button on this. It was interesting because, like I said, I'd read a lengthy interview with the CEO of OpenAI. So if you guys don't know, OpenAI is the company that ChatGPT is part of. And it was interesting because when he was pressed on, he acknowledges there could be downsides of all this, but when he was pressed on the downsides and solutions when it comes to regulation, I thought it was interesting because it was kind of ambiguous. He didn't say anything definitive. It was kind of like, we kind of have to take it as it comes. And this other author I read talking about it, I loved this kind of metaphor as well. He said, basically right now, we're all just predicting. We're all just hypothesizing. We didn't know with the typewriter what would happen with the electricity, right? We didn't know. And at first, you know, especially with the OpenAI CEO, I was kind of annoyed that he was so ambiguous, but then I was like, actually, I kind of get it because we don't know.
He is the most kind of open, to my point. He's open and actually sincere in what he's saying. And and this is not like we expect those kind of tech leaders to actually know much more than we are, like expect answers for them. But why? And like,
Yeah.
and I want to ask this question, like, why you expect? So he made a breakthrough, amazing breakthrough. AI is around like for 15 years, but he did with LLM something that no one did. Like, this is the layer of like human language that makes all the viral effect, because you talk to her almost like a third to person, but it's not actually that way, but it feels like you're talking to a person. And he's a very optimistic person, and I think that the split between, you know, that Elon Musk was founded OpenAI, but then they split it.
Mhm.
So my personal take, Elon Musk is very down to earth and like thinking very clearly and very rationally.
I love
And
Elon. I'm
he
always
yeah
here
he,
for an Elon moment.
so he's basically thinking that if you give this tool to people, people are not so good in dealing with great things when they are not aware, and they can do some harm to themselves or to people. And Altman, being a very open and very, I think this is, again, I don't know him personally, but it's more of like a kind and naive kind of perspective. He has this, we're human being, we're all here together, and we need to figure it out. So OpenAI, even the naming, they kind of like, they want to make it open. They don't want to make it open because there's a lot of like other issues there. But he's literally was questioning himself in this interview with Lex Fridman. He was like, yeah, should I go and just give you everything like an open source kind of thing? And he's literally thinking about it because he wants us as a humanity to explore it and actually figure it out, what are the best implication, because he believes in good in humanity, and Elon might not, so, you know, kind of like believing in good in humanity. And it's interesting because this is it's a split in ideologies, more of
Yeah.
like on the higher level, not on the, even not on the rational level. And I think that's the question, like on what side you are. Like, do you think that we are as a humanity failing always, or we can do something good? Because it's time to
Yeah.
actually do something good, because before that we were failing. We failed with a lot of other technologies that went, like, to my point, we could do better.
It really feels like, that's what I joked about in the beginning. It's almost like the battle, like I said, of the visionaries, the futurists, and the old school kind of simplistic traditionalists like myself. And it's like, you're the cool kids if you're in the former, not the latter. But let's get into, because I think there are real concerns, one of them being kids and schools. And I'll say this is no secret. I am so concerned for the generation after me and after that and after that, because I'm afraid that people are, and even more, are becoming actual potatoes. Even the kids that I have who work in my orbit, I have no shame. I don't care. There's laziness, entitlement, like we've never seen. I also read a really interesting piece, even in colleges and in Ivy League schools, how cheating with all of these different tools has become the norm, and no one's being checked and no one gives a shit. So that's what worries me, is kids using ChatGPT for essays, and again, people will say you're being short-sighted. What if you go to a country, and a foreign country, and AI enables you to, in the moment, have a conversation with a foreigner in that language? The way I see it, I'm like, put in the work and learn the fucking language, like the old school way. So I'm afraid, again, it's just going to make everybody stupid, lazy potatoes.
So it's interesting. This is the fear, and this is like a serious thing. There's another thing to it, adding to this kind of, again, I'm a tech optimist, but I kind of like critically thinking and see the other side. The other side is the data. We had critical amount of data in the world right now. So everything that we're seeing right now, like mushrooms after the rain, we have a lot of like companies coming up because the data is there. So to train Midjourney for paintings, you have millions of paintings, like billions of paintings in the network basically already. So what happened when models start to learn on previous model results, generated results? So one of the examples is the coding website, where every developer, software engineer in the world was sharing some codes, and people were asking, oh, I cannot do this like task, help me out. And they were like sharing and sharing. Like, there's the post was like 10 millions, 15 millions views, and people just shared information. So now every software engineer goes to ChatGPT for these questions. So they're not doing those posts. The question is not an internet, and the answer is not an internet. And that means the model doesn't have enough data to actually learn, because what will happen in ChatGPT 6, it needs to have data, and the sources when the model was trained of will be outdated or not progressing as in the same amount. It can be a problem. So they experimented with like images when image was basically based on another generated image and things like that. So it's degrading. It's never coming, getting better, or at least staying on the same level. Everything degrading when the data source is corrupted. So here's the question, like how we continue motivated people, artists, writers, and many other science people to actually analytics, to actually provide more and more data so those models could feed afterwards. So that's another problem. So that's with kids, it's a huge problem that can end humanity. The other thing is just not stopping like a natural way of producing content rather than have it synthetically generated. And this is two big things that we're up to solve. So what I believe, this is not up to kids for sure. We cannot blame kids for that. It's not up to even their parents in some sort. Like you mentioned, like arrogancy or some other qualities that can be fixed in the family as the part of the behavior. But the other thing is it's an organizational, institutional question for education system that didn't change for so long and makes no sense. Like it already didn't make sense for a couple of decades, but it's just ridiculously makes no sense with AI. So at least like teachers should be, should know, and there's the tools already that recognize AI text.
Yep. I've seen text. That, yeah. And I also don't want to seem so stuck in my ways and overlook the really great efficiencies and advancements, particularly with medicine. People are like, you could put in cancer could be cured. You could put in symptoms and blood sample of a loved one, and boom, you'll know the disease and how to cure it, and all the, therapy and all these things that I don't want to overlook.
It will be amazing. So every regulated industry, those medicine is medical part, medical vertical is one of the most regulated. So where everything that has tons of regulations can be can be AGI basically, and it will be automotive. And this is interesting. This is amazing. Actually, it will help us so much. There will be so much more free time for your thing. If you're co-piloting, if you're CPA, if you're a lawyer, if you're co-piloting with generative AI, you will just kind of do more stuff in the less time.
Right.
Much more time for your creativity to go forward.
Well, that's where that's where I was going to pivot to next, the creative side of it. People have told me, you're being short-sighted. It will save you so much time as an entrepreneur. You could have this thing summarize your emails, edit your videos, do this, do that. Like it saves me so much time. Again, that's where I think it comes down to not only society, but the individual to discern, okay, where am I going to put in the actual human hard work in this and take this thing off my plate, right? That's where it could be a slippery slope, but something for me as a creative that is so existential, and you touched on this, is art. And the fact that, the writers' strike going on in LA right now, a huge component is greedy studios wanting to replace actual human writers and use AI. The CEO of OpenAI, get this, there was a podcast episode with him and Joe Rogan. It's neither of them. It was AI generated. So when it comes to, art and creativity, I think that's a very valid concern, right?
And it's interesting because, again, regulation will come to place. The deep faking will be like, it's already a problematic and prohibited. The thing will just go, and people will explore the models that will recognize deep fakes and things like that will appear. People will just embed it and just, place it. It will just be embedded in Zoom, so you will know that here's another deep fake. So it will eventually, don't think about it as like one direction. There's as problem will appear, this like a multiple solutions will appear, and multiple regulation will appear, and that's how every time we go through history in that way. So it's a normal thing. If you remember, with cars was the same thing. The rules didn't like pops up, and the light traffic light was not invented immediately, and things like that. So it will happen. With a problem, the solution will come. And in this case, the creativity is unleashed. It's interesting what we can do. It's interesting question for humanity, what actually you want to do, instead of like editing and correcting and doing like more technical side, what actually your capacity is, and what's actually in your like mission in this life. And that's an existential question, and we want to answer that. But there's I think it's a wonderful time. It's an amazing time to rediscover that. It's not every generation happened to be across this kind of pivotal changes, and it's overhyped right now, but it has a reason why. It has a lot of impact in the future, and no one knows. And don't expect every leader to know that what will happen, because everyone is a human being and things can turn different ways. But what we can do, we can formate it without eliminate the fear from your think, and actually do something. Try it, just to apply it in your world, just to kind of write several emails with ChatGPT, and you will see, and you will learn the language. I mean, not just like a software developer or things like that, just language, how to speak with AI. And every model has a specifics. When you learn it, so what I believe it, we will not eliminate people. We not eliminate people from the business processes. So let's say there's a prompt engineer. So for language model that will work with legal, the best prompt engineers will be legals, like you will be like a lawyer. And on the other side, so best prompt engineers, best people to talk to the model will be professionally profound people, and this is exactly what we want to do it. So it will not take you away, but if you will study this specifics of communicating with the model, and it's very easy to do, just a little bit of your authentic curiosity.
So the physicality of it, and it kind of goes into what I was saying earlier about our culture's excessiveness in everything. I feel like there's just no shame, whether it be excessive, laziness or entitlement or excessive technology use, right? It's like, it feels like there's no happy medium ever. And my audience knows I'm very adamant about our physical presentations of who we are when it comes to that, because I feel like, again, it is the clash of the overly done excessive plastic surgeries, filters, all of this. Not talking about the one-off, say someone wants a boob job or a nose job. That aside, I'm talking about the excessiveness. And I'm very adamant about, again, putting in the real work. Say you want results with your body, whatever it is, and doing it the quote real way. Now, in this world, right, in the metaverse and with avatars, people will argue pretty soon, you're not going to be able, you could pick whatever you want to look like in this world, and no one will be able to discern. It'll almost be like it's reality. So what do you feel are kind of pros and cons of that? And can that, again, go too far?
We're social human beings. Like will not, it's like in the instincts, we want to make it, we want to make it as real as we can. So in this case, I just believe that first of all, it will start as the wearable. So we will wear AI on us, and we will kind of communicate as a human being. But it will be, as I was still a believer in like a mixed reality and AR thing, it will enhance your vision. So AI will enhance your thinking process, your analytics and critical thinking, and a lot of things like that. So you'll be just becoming smarter. So, and the history of like writing process was exactly the same. We invented like writing and scribing some data on those little clay plates, just because our brain could not store data. And if a person who knows something dies, there's no possible way to, or so. So we were making this continuously evolution on that. We start to store data. So first things that people wrote was not poetry, not just words. It was numbers. How many acres of this field belong to this person, how many acres of this field belongs to another family, and things like that. So think about it as an enhancement of our own kind of like capabilities. We will enhance our vision, we enhance our thinking process, our analytics, and things like that. So it doesn't eliminate the social component, because we will still talking to each other, we'll still compete, love, interact, and things like that. There's a lot of two relationships starts to be real that happens online. Look at Tinder, look at all the digital conversations that we have. It feels real. It feels like a real relationship. It will end with like a human beings meeting each other, but in the end there's a lot of realness in this kind of conversations happening. So I believe that we're way too far from like in having no embodiment in our relationship. We will be here in our bodies, and we need to actually, you know, protect and care about our bodies, because there is a possible way that our generation and maybe younger generation will happen to be in the same exact transition from in the medicine that will make us living much longer. So you need to save as much as you can to live through this moment. We are so close. We're in the magical place right now. We need to be responsible to our action. We're thinking about this like someone will do this, like someone will do harm with AI, someone will do harm with whatever new technology will come out, but it's us. It's us people, our divisions, our fears. That's what feeds this conversations. And I really believe that we need to just take responsibility. Actually, each one of that listen to this podcast, just go and use it and overcome the fear, start to see the potential, and see the problems. Doesn't make you blind. You see the problems and make everything you can to avoid, to kind of get the bypass these problems, and teach your kids from the day zero to use them, but use them with a mindfulness, knowing that it's not cheating instrument, but it's an authentic curiosity
resource.
Exactly.
Well, I
exactly.
appreciate
Make
you.
it playful.
I appreciate you saying all of this, because I know I sound like a cranky old grandma pessimist purist, but you know, I do think when I look at it on the whole, it's interesting because, right, like the futurists will like you will so optimistically say, you know, it enhances us, it's resources. There's still going to be activity in the interconnectedness. And when I look at technology on the whole, I can't help but just feel like it has destroyed us in so many ways. I mean, people are anxious, they're depressed, they don't take accountability, they don't know how to interact with each other in the real world. And so I can only, people feel so disconnected, oddly enough. It's such an oxymoron, right? In this time when we can talk to someone across the world like that. So I just hope that people use it in a smart way that enhances life, what you're advocating for. I can just hope and pray that people like you will really be loud and pave the way for that, because I think it's in our hands to do that, and do it in a healthy way that helps us, not hurts us. And tell us about GetGen AI, which you said you don't want to be a quote woke tool.
We figured out the model that I had experienced, our co-founder and our CEO had experience. We work both at Snap, and we build inclusive product principles. What does it mean? Every product have to be accessible by as much people as we know. So we want actually much more people have an opportunity to use camera, to use with chats and AI and all the technology our companies basically offers. So in this point, at that time we did the inclusive camera campaign. It was award-winning campaign as a first part of it. So it means that all our cameras initially were built for light skin and white skin people. That's how the camera was invented. So a lot of times other colors of skin was negatively kind of represented on the camera. So we did Snap actually did this kind of the whole product effort to make the camera recognize different types of skin and make it more and much better. So those ideas of having those principles in the core of your product is very important for companies right now. Not because of hype, not because of just politics and stuff like that. It's because people care about customers very diverse group of people, and we want to make sure everyone feel welcome on the product. So in this case, DEI become a business matter outside of just a moral conversation. And yeah, you wanted to ask us something.
Well, just to interject,
Yeah.
well, I also take it right, given your experience at Snapchat and Meta, which I take it obviously Meta is trying to get ahead of the curve with Web3, given, metaverse, right? So I'm sure that obviously you've seen what they were doing and behind the scenes of getting ahead of the curve with AI and implementing all sorts of things, which I'm sure informs you now and your new endeavor, right? Where I was going to interject is when we get into the DEI. So if you guys don't know, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, that now all of these companies, it's basically the Bud Lights of it all, right? So the reason why I interject, he's like, yes, precisely. The reason I interject about your new endeavor, Get Gen AI, is because in Cancel Me Baby style, it feels like the DEI implementing it has gone too far to where businesses are losing so much capital and stock and customers, right? So it's so interesting because I was watching on CNN the other night, they had a man on talking about Bud Light. And I was shocked that they actually someone had the balls to say this on CNN, but he said, know your audience, right? Know your audience. It's not about you're a business, and that should be your primary focus, is making money as a business and tailoring, no pun intended, to your audience versus trying to fit everybody in. And what I thought was so interesting before we hopped on about what you said is, again, because I'm thinking oh my God, AI meets DEI. Are we all just going to be the PC robots that we never saw coming, just regurgitating, right? All of this woke speak, so to speak. But what you said was, again, you don't want it to be a woke tool, and that what you're doing wouldn't dictate what people do or don't say. It would more so be a tool in how they can learn and how they could say things. So to anyone who's like, ding, 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 in my head, red flag going off of oh, Jesus, what could go wrong? In my mind, and I'd love for you to address this, I feel like the way that we learn from each other is by slipping up or getting things out in the open versus walking on eggshells. So challenge me on that. How is something like this actually no, we can learn and get there. And this is what we need. This will help.
I wanted to address the Bud case because that's an interesting thing. And I spent all my career in marketing and creative work. And this is just, I think, again, I very for DEI implementation. I'm very for kind of the woke part of our society right now is and part of this is, yes, that's conflicting thing, but I really want to talk about it. On the other side, I think that was just a wrong move. I would love to see the ads where core target audience meets a person from LGBTQ community or and etc. And they have certain relationship, funny, interesting, awkward. That could be an interesting interaction. But when you, as a brand, you ignore your core audience at all, that might be a problem. And that's what happened, because it's not about showing a certain minorities in the ads. It's not about that. It's about not showing the core and not showing the relationship,
knowing your audience,
and basically basically not interacting in a way, not being playful about insights that about your audience and how they have what the conflicts they have, and make an educational or fun thing about it to make it actually work together, to make actually less split, less gap, make people think about this together. And that's an interesting way. That how I would treat this. And it's a super interesting task in terms of the communication. It still can be very scandalous. It could raise controversial, but that would be a different problem. You didn't ignore your core, you address them and other people you want to include in your community, in your kind of customers profile. That's interesting.
It's interesting because even Bud Light fell from being the number one beer in America right now. And it was the domestic beer that was, the number, and it fell from that. And I had a conversation with someone behind the scenes going, again, know your audience, read the room. And it's that kind of opposition of like, well, they have these DEI protocol standards now that it's not even necessarily their choice, but that they have to do. And that in the end, it's like, it hurts business, right?
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because DEI is much larger than what we think. So first of all, there's a product principles that is impacting people that has some sort of, let's say, disabilities. They have like some other issues that can make hardships on the way to use your product. That also DEI. Age restrictions, pH rating is also DEI. Everything about accessibility and inclusion and equality, those things are very interesting topic, and there's a lot of policies. So what our product does, it takes, and again, just a little remark, every company right now has a separate and different DEI. It's not one thing. It's not like you created it for everyone or government established it. No, it's everyone decide on what they focus on, what they want to do, what are their values, what's interact with their values and tone of voice, and how they want to implement DEI policies. So what we do, we learn all those policies. Our model learns the policies of the company, not of the world, not of everyone, just for this company. And it tracks all the communication and find those incompliant moments in the text. So for instance, we took the CEO of Spotify email when he was laying off people in January. We ran it through. After that, it was a big scandal. There's nothing like controversial there. There was nothing like racial there. There was nothing racist there. So it was very, common email with lots of people saw, but nobody noticed that it was lack of empathy. It was lack of emotional recognition. He was overemphasizing success while like laying off people, and our model tracked those things. And it's make a possibility if he would just use our tool and apply those correct those mistakes, it won't be a scandal. He would eliminate it, the stock price would not go down, and the scandal would not kind of happen. So what I'm talking about, it's not just DEI, it's more of like a cultural sensitivity layer that educates you before you post something online.
Which is what I just want to make it clear for everybody. That is what your product and your tool will do. So like literally say I'm going to type a tweet or a post on Facebook, it would give me alternatives of how to say something in a more educated, thoughtful, sensitive way.
First, it will just tell you that this part can be insulting or it can be problematic, or you were like lacking empathy here towards those group of people. It will explain you, and then you will decide if you want to apply in any of generation suggestion, or you just want, it was your intention. So a lot of times we were thinking about evaluating, like one of the cases that we use is evaluating scripts for shows, for TV commercials and movies. And it can actually go through the text and find some, creative usage of certain problematic or sensitive topic. So of course, as a creative, it was your intention, you want to skip it. You will not change your script because of that, because it will ruin the plot. But sometimes you will figure it out that by changing one scene, you can change the PJ rating of the movie. By tracking, there's a lot of policies around, like for Disney, for example, for Amazon, for as a streamers, they have 150 and more plus rules, how to represent age, how to represent certain professions, how to present certain racial stereotypes and stuff like that. So to track it manually is just impossible. So now we can do this and make people more aware about what they're doing. It's not about fixing the language and pretending to be someone else. It's more about educating you. I actually think that the most arrogant people would love this product, because on the other side, they might not care about DI principles and values, but on the other side, they don't want to be an epicenter of a scandal or lose their job. So they want to check if they're not tracking what's happening with the culture right now. they might check themselves before posting just to eliminate. It's a risk mitigation tool. Basically, you can avoid certain moments, certain scandals from happening.
This is a lot for
Interesting.
me to, it really is, because it's kind of, I'll be honest, it goes up against what I said before. And I feel like the value in human error in a way. And that's what I appreciate about your product, is that it's not going, we're going to dictate what you say and how you say it. We're going to give you options. We're going to keep you informed. You don't have to run with this. But I think it's, again, you talk about the scandals and all these things. And I just feel like that is human nature. And even
They will still happen.
What's that?
They will still happen. It will not kind of like, it's not that it's not like a medicine out of it. It's more about educating you on the way.
Right.
What I'm saying is, in this case, let's imagine no one, on both sides, on let's say woke side and not woke side, no one invests enough to track what's going on with the culture. This is just impossible. It's a full-time job for people like CDOs, chief diversity officers, who are now at schools and in every tech corporation and any big company. They have the whole department of people that doing it. So it's hard to track. It's a science. It correlates with history. It correlates with politics, with lots of different scientific groups and research and institutions, just to follow with a certain rules that make sense when you know why. When you don't know why, it seems ridiculous sometimes. When you know why, you suddenly, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why next time I'll do that different thing. So that's the whole thing. So whatever you use, you just learn a little bit of information. Instead of, no one Googles that, no one researches that, especially like if you're a busy person, you're running your own business, but you don't want to have to be in the center of it. So now you can have this little helper, exactly like you use Grammarly to fix your spelling. Right. You want to be culturally sensitive. Doesn't mean you need to change it if you mean it. It means that you know exactly what you do. You do aware thing. And consciously using this word or another. And this is interesting because a lot of mishaps happens when people don't know. They just didn't actually were educated, no, not educated, but they were not literally didn't know that the fact of existing. And that's how they got into mishap that they never meant to be for them. So that's an interesting another interesting topic. So that's why I think that it will help both sides, to be honest.
That's so interesting. I mean, I obviously think that sensitivity in our sensitive culture has gone too far, but on the other end of it, it's fun. Yeah, right. You're like, exactly. I agree. But what your product and what your tool is doing, it's funny. It feels to me almost like the other end of the Wild West and the accelerated pace of AI, when you hear these stories of someone engaging with Chat GPT and it's like, leave your wife. No, seriously, leave your wife. No, you hate your wife. It's like, this is the other almost end of that.
The thing is that there's no way back. So things will not be as they were.
Don't scare me even more.
Yeah, that's it. Like, guys, this is like Pandora box is kind of like a scary thing. But Pandora, if it was something more positive, like something that the change is happening without your will. It's not without your kind of want it or not. Basically, in this case, we are, and our kids, they will not exist in the world without AI. I don't want to use AI anymore right now because everything from this day, and all the companies, all the industries, all the verticals will be in with some sort of ML, AGI, AI, LLM infusion. Everything will be with that. So I see it because there's like the Y Combinator bench was like 80 companies in AI or 80% companies in AI space. It means everything that the Silicon Valley produces right now will be with AI infusion. So tomorrow it will be our normal. new normal.
Lastly, very last thing for you. I know I joked earlier about the Mark Zuckerberg punchline. I always make fun of Zuck on my show and how he never blinks. I'm like, okay, he's a certified alien. So now that you're not at Meta anymore, and maybe when you were there, being someone who was in that orbit, can you appreciate said jokes?
I am. Yeah, I can appreciate it, of course. Yes. I actually think that like there was a funny scandal happened with his avatar when it was in my team back then. With avatar that was like looking not alive, and like he was also like with this eyes and things like that. The quality was really low, but I think there's a sudden progress in the company. They actually released a lot of open source AIs this like couple months, and they are very important and interesting. It's for free for people to actually build on top of it, and it's interesting. There's certain changes happening, and again, there's certain people at Meta that are absolute groups of people that are absolutely geniuses. They are talented, they are super interesting, they're doing great job, but it's in what I believe there's a great need of like a structural and purpose driven push. What I'm saying, when you talk about this thing that we discussed right now, there's a business matter. In our case, it's to save, and to get Gen AI case, it's to save people from scandals and enhance this communication. But I built a cultural sensitive layer that reduces amount of hatred and hate speech in the world. That's what I want to do. I want people to start this dialogue. And thank you for inviting me here, because this is a starting dialogue with the audience and working with the fears and actually going through that towards a much brighter kind of takeout or future.
I so appreciate you, Artem. This was so much fun, so enlightening. And once things accelerate, which I'm sure they will at rapid pace down the road, I'll have to have you back to get us all up to speed. And I just so appreciate your insight and being so optimistic about all this in such a thoughtful way. So thank you so much. And I had a blast too while learning.
Thank you.